Welcome into the KLSU Sports Tailgate Show live from the KLSU studio here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the John Frisha podcast room, what we like to call it. I'm your host, Michael Poggi, alongside fellow KLSU sports reporter William Gilreath, and of course Tiger TV's Kai Hamilton. So, guys, how we doing on this Friday? How we doing on this Friday morning?
I'm doing great. It's a great weekend in Baton Rouge for football, with LSU playing Ole Miss in the Balboa Bowl and Southern University having their rival this weekend against Jackson State.
Yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow's game. We got a great college football slate nationwide. We got a great sports slate going on this weekend. I think it's going to be a great weekend. So.
Yeah, we got another week of LSU football, obviously, as well as some other good games around the league, around the country, but we're here to talk about the big one. We're here to talk about number 3 LSU going on the road and taking on the Rebels, the Ole Miss Rebels, of course, or the Land Sharks, whatever you want to call them these days. Number 3 versus number 13 at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Of course, LSU looking to beat Ole Miss and in Oxford for the first time since 2019. And of course, for all my sports heads out there, last time these two teams have met up undefeated, when was that?
2019.
Nope.
No.
Undefeated. Undefeated, both of these teams. It was a big moment. It was Halloween night.
Was it
in Cannon Glass.
1959?
1959 was the last time that these two teams were undefeated.
Oh, wow.
So it's a big game, both sides, a lot of stuff on the line for both of these teams. So let's just get right into it and discuss all of this. The LSU defense versus the Ole Miss offense. Of course, as most of you now know, Ole Miss announced on Wednesday that Division II transfer from Ferris State University, Trinidad Chambliss, will be the starting quarterback for the Rebels to start against the Tigers tomorrow afternoon. Chambliss has 719 passing yards on the year, as well as 195 rushing yards on the year, while only starting in the 2 games this season. So, good news is that for the Tigers, you know who you're getting.
Right.
You know who you're seeing. This isn't going to be something like A&M last year where you know exactly who you're getting. So you've had time to prepare for both of these quarterbacks, and you know who is getting the nod. What does Chambliss bring for this Ole Miss offense? What kind of tools does he have that the LSU defense just must be ready for?
Well, the big thing is the dual threat ability. I mean, this is a guy that, for as good of a passer as he is, and he's great at that, he can also run. I think, the comparison you made this weekend on our Sunday show was he's sort of like Jaden Daniels, and that's a good way to look at it. This is a guy that he can tear you apart in the passing game, but you have to watch out for his rushing ability. He ran for over 100 yards last week against Tulane on just 14 carries. He had 2 rushing touchdowns against Arkansas. He is very, very prominent on the ground, so they have to be ready for that.
Yeah, but he's so frustrating to contain, and he's racked up those passing yards and rushing yards without a single turnover. The Tigers need to be highly disciplined to prevent him from escaping the pocket. And then Patrick Payton talked about how the defense has to be extremely conditioned and ready for Ole Miss's fast tempo pace. The defense has to get cleats on the ground literally and get lined up quickly, because LSU will not be able to do what they need to do if they do not hurry up, because Ole Miss will not wait for them.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Patrick Payton talked during those player interviews on Tuesday, and he was kind of asked, obviously, you got to be ready for 2 quarterbacks. So what are what's kind of the mindset? And he's saying, both of these quarterbacks are good in their own way. One can beat you with his legs, and he can also throw the ball, and the other one's a very good passer. They're getting the guy who's a little bit more dual threat. But both of these quarterbacks can go in and beat you. These are 2 really good quarterbacks, 2 gamers. But we've said it all week, we have a Harold Perkins. LSU has a Harold Perkins on their side. And that's, I think, got to be the difference. Your players, your big-time players, need to make the plays for this LSU defense. Look, yes, he was a stud in Division II level. He was amazing. He won a national championship, #1 team in the country at Ferris State. Shout out Ferris State. But you know, it's one of those things where you just have to be ready for what he's going to bring to the table, and there's no excuses. You've been ready. You've seen two games of film, 2 full games of film. One is an SEC opponent, and then one's, Tulane, who is a very good Group of 5 team. So I just think that this LSU defense, like you said, containing that pocket, and if they are going to force him one way, make sure your linebackers are there. Make sure your guys, it's not just rush to rush. There's a plan by everything you do. Blake Baker will have that ready. So Ole Miss also brings in a run game that does not involve their shifty quarterback. As Kawan Lacey has, 7 rushing touchdowns on the year, as well as 358 yards on 79 carries, with a run defense that has just been so good for LSU. Unbelievable. Who's going to be the X factor for this defense? Who's going to really just make everything kind of work? Obviously, Relaford out for the season as of yesterday with the rotator cuff. So what's that next step? It's next man up, obviously, but what's going to happen for this LSU defense, and what do they need to get, who's the X factor, and what do they need to do to not allow Lacey getting going early?
Well, with Relaford out, there's one guy that does stand out to me, and that's Dylan Carpenter. We saw a little bit of him in the last game, and he had that 1 sack. And then Brian Kelly also talked about how he's waited for his opportunity and he's built trust with his defense. So he has the potential to take a majority of what Relaford has done. But there's going to be guys like Jamari Butler who's going to see their workload increase by a lot. And it's going to be critical to keep him in the situation where guys like Patrick Payton and Jack Piper have to stay fresh throughout the game.
Yeah, a big thing that LSU has had this year is the depth, especially on that defensive line. And, they really feel like there's that no drop-off, the next man up mentality. They don't see the starters being that much better than the bench guys. And that's going to come into play with Relaford being out. I think, Butler's going to get a lot more reps, and I think he probably should. And I think that's going to help them against this Ole Miss team, because the run defense has not been an issue at all. It's not been a concern for me at all this season. I mean, nothing on the defensive side has been that big of a concern this season, but they've been so good at stopping the run. The biggest thing they have to do to stop Lacey tomorrow afternoon is they have to tackle. This is a guy that I think he was averaging around 4 yards after contact.
Yes, so glad you brought that up.
It's those plays where he can break a tackle and fight for those yards. It's an SEC matchup. It's a top 15 matchup. Those yards matter in this type of game. They have to, the first guy has to bring him down, or at least slow him down enough to where he's not fighting for those extra yards, especially on those critical third down scenarios that Ole Miss, will get into. They need to be able to limit his explosiveness, I should say.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned kind of just like the next man up mentality that this defense brings. You talked about on the Sunday show how they really do believe that this team is like the 2011 defense, where they can bring a team like this to a national championship. That mentality's there. I've never seen, I've been here for 4 years, this is the most confident I've seen a team, whether that's in the interviews, whether that's in practice, or whether that's just, in general, just talking to the media or just being out and about. These guys are confident. These guys are ready to roll. But yes, the tackling is, we talked about that last year. That was a big point of conversation last year, was just how they struggled with getting that first tackle that hurt you against A&M, that hurt you in some ways against Ole Miss last year, even though you won the game. There were a lot of ways where you just got beat just because you weren't doing your job right away when you were able to do it. So yes, I think the X factor is just sticking to your game plan, sticking to what you know. Don't try and switch stuff up. I'm a little bit nervous and worried just to see how this defense kind of shapes up with the 2 quarterback system, because Simmons isn't fully healthy. I can almost guarantee we will probably see him tomorrow afternoon. If unless he was recently ruled out. I can see him going in for a couple plays. It happened against Tulane. It happened against Arkansas. You're going to see him, I think, and that's a little bit of a worry of just like what they need to be ready for and all that. But the run defense has been so good, and as long as you wrap up, as long as you get that first contact, you can make Lacey look like just an average guy.
Right.
You really can. It's not like he's going to be a first-round draft pick. Like, he is a guy that you can kind of get to a little bit and make his life a little bit harder. So now that kind of gets me. I want to ask you, because you kind of gave me a name. Who's the guy that needs to step up on this defensive line since Relaford's out?
Well, I think a guy that I'm going to look out for tomorrow is Jacobian Guillory. He shined last week. He's a run stopper. He's in that interior defensive line to stop the run. He is big. He is powerful. He's also experienced, and he's hungry. He's been at LSU for a while. How last season played out was not how he had hoped with his Achilles injury. So coming back, it was for games like these tomorrow night on the road. He's a guy who's never won at Ole Miss.
Never.
And that sticks with these guys. When they lose games throughout their career, it sticks with them.
Yeah.
So I think tomorrow he's going to come out hungry. He's going to come out angry. I think he's going to make a big play on a 3rd and 1, a 4th and 1. That's a guy that I think is going to be a difference maker because of how powerful he is and just his mindset too.
Right, and I that's a great pick, and he played such an amazing game last week, and his energy, he loves this school, and he loves this place. He loves playing in that purple and gold. And that's very important to have as a leader on your team. Jack Pyburn has to be the guy. He's been so good defensively, just run stopping, and even in the pass rush, just getting enough pressure. Obviously, he hasn't gotten enough. Like he has, I don't know how many sacks he has on the year.
One.
Maybe one, but it hasn't. He's not a sack guy. He's a run stopper, and I expect him to be all over the field on Saturday. I expect to hear his name called a lot. He is going to have to be that first guy to the ball almost every single time when they hand that ball off. Or if they do a read option or something, they need to be ready for that on the edge. And I think Pyburn is going to be ready. I think Pyburn's going to be that guy. Do you have anybody else, or you sticking with
I'm
your
sticking with
original
my
pick?
pick. Oh, yeah,
All right,
I'm sticking with
I
my
like it.
pick.
So obviously with LSU preparing for 2 quarterbacks this week, do you think it's going to cause a little bit confusion or, just some uncertainty? Because, it's, yes, they have the established QB1, but I just think that, like A&M last year, you just have that in the back of your head, especially from a Brian Kelly standpoint. What do you kind of think?
Yeah, I think this is something that I've seriously been concerned about this week especially. To me, the biggest thing is they have to learn from their mistakes last year.
Right.
And that's more from a coaching standpoint than anything. You know, the way you practice is how you're going to play.
Right.
The preparation is key. And last year at times when they would play A&M and Alabama, they clearly did not prepare the right way.
Right.
From tomorrow, they won't win the game if they just prepare to stop shameless run game. That's not going to happen. They have to have come this week in practice ready for, the over-the-middle throws, the deep ball. I hope that Blake Baker, and I really do believe he has, I hope that him and Kelly and that defensive staff, they learned from last year. Last year was as good of a learning experience as ever. Same for 23 with Kelly, where the defense, it shot them in the foot, especially against Ole Miss. So if they learned how to prepare for these types of quarterbacks, I think they'll be fine.
Right, and preparation is key for that because this game will be an entire test of the defense and then their discipline. And it's all about the linebackers maintaining their rush lanes and containing the quarterback, preventing the big scrambling plays. And then back to what you were talking about on Baker, he's been able to use Perkins and Pyburn and all they can do for their defense. And as long as they continue to keep up what they're doing, they should be fine.
And I like that you mentioned Perk, because that's a guy they didn't have last year against A&M or Alabama, and that really hurt them too.
And it hurt them, and the reason being, and that's why I think LSU fans and LSU as a team have that little bit of confidence, because you know you have that number 7 back there, a guy who was such, a pain in other offenses for, his freshman year and whatnot, like, has just been a pain all over the place. Having him back and bringing him into this unit is unbelievable. He's been great this year. I don't think that there's really going to be much uncertainty. I just kind of think I'm a little bit nervous just to see what happens. Obviously, just because it feels like we've watched this movie before. Feels like we've turned this game on plenty of times, and you don't want that. And obviously Lane Kiffin said take the over, so we're going to see a lot of points.
Many reasons,
apparently. But I just think that from this defensive standpoint. You said we have Perk. We also have a Witt. West should possibly play. I think he's going to play. It's going to be interesting. And you have those 3. You have that 3-headed snake, and it's going to be a problem for Ole Miss as long as they stick to the game. Like Baker, I trust in the coaching staff. This coaching staff gets paid way too much money to not have this figured out. So I think they've been preparing all week. I think they've been preparing even before this week. I think mentally they're prepared. Mentally they're confident. Mentally, no, I don't think anybody on this defense thinks that they're going to lose this football game. And the only way they do is if they struggle. And we see something that we haven't seen all year. But with that, what's the key to win the game for this defense?
Real quick, do you think Kiffin made a mistake by naming Shameless the starter? Do you think he should have hid that?
I do, 100%. I 100% think that. I think yes, that was that was my biggest worry, was that Lane Kiffin was going to kind of hide it almost, like say, okay, you know what, we might start Simmons, we haven't really decided what we're going to do yet, and then kind of play mind games. I think that would have been an amazing move. I also do think that Brian Kelly and Baker and the coaching staff probably would have had that figured out, and they were going to prepare for 2 quarterbacks no matter what, but that's a very good point, and I think so.
And we don't know the role Simmons might play tomorrow. Anyway.
Right, we don't.
But
so
the key for me is it's going to be get the stops, limit their points.
Yes.
I think if LSU can hold Ole Miss to under 28 points, which is, based off what we've seen from this defense, not that hard to do, but possible. This is a good Ole Miss team. If they can hold them to under even 21 points, I think they win this game.
Right.
So that's my key. Get the stops, limit the explosive plays, and when you have the opportunity to get off the field, get off the field.
Yes.
Make the play. If it's a turnover, a 3rd down, a 4th down, make the play, get off the field, give the ball to your offense, and let them get in a roll.
Look, and this is a group of receivers that 5 of them have over 100-something yards in their games, and they've been all over the place. Like they spread the ball around, they share the love. So you're not going to just be able to cover one guy. So I'd say that the key to win the game is eliminate those big moments. Eliminate the big moments, but also, just shut them. I think if you just, first drive of the game, you get a 3 and out. And the place is going crazy, you rattle them. I think right away the key for this team is to just get at them immediately. Don't be sleeping. They'll get caught, snoozing while Chambliss is throwing a deep ball down, and the secondary is good enough to where I don't think that will happen. But I just, like you said, eliminate the big plays, and I think the biggest key is you got to force a turnover.
Right.
You have to force a turnover.
And it really comes down to beating that Ole Miss tempo, because Ole Miss runs the fastest offense in the SEC, forcing defensive players to normally panic. But our defensive line has to be technically sound in maintaining rush integrity, and it's never losing or containing and giving Chambliss Lane a scramble. If the LSU defense can really combine that lightning fast alignment with the quarterback containment, they will limit those explosive plays and force Ole Miss into long drives that a fast tempo offense hates.
And the other thing too, to go back to what you said, and you kind of mentioned it too, get them out of their game. Because Lane Kiffin teams they're mentally weak. When things start to go bad, it goes
Right, they
bad.
shut down immediately.
If you can just frustrate them enough on that first drive, that 3 and out, like rattle them.
Yes.
And Kiffin that's been his weakness as a coach. He hasn't been able to kind of find that, I don't know what the word is.
Rhythm?
I guess he hasn't been able to get his rhythm back. Kelly has shown he can do that.
Yes.
Kiffin, no.
Well, we got some. We don't have a whole lot of time, but we need to move on to this LSU offense, as the LSU offense has finally got cracking on all cylinders. Last week against Southeastern, of course, an FCS school, but it was good to see the points get back on the board. The offense move the chains, gives you a little bit of breathing room. So. Obviously, what does this offense need to do on Saturday to win this football game? My answer is pretty simple, but I'd like to hear y'all's.
Score some touchdowns. They need points. They need 6, not 3, especially when they get into the red zone. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. Come out, let Nuss find his rhythm. I think that's the key, especially early on.
Yeah.
He needs to get into that rhythm.
I agree.
He got into it last week, and he looked like the Nuss of the league. So, a deep ball, maybe it's a deep ball, maybe it's a throw over the middle. One play can just set him and get him going.
It can also bring him back, and that's my worry. But what do you think?
I agree with you, Will, because this game, really, I think our best offensive player is probably going to be Garrett Nussmeier. We know that Ole Miss defense is ranking near the bottom in the SEC and bottom of the country for rushing yards, so I mean, LSU can really exploit that weakness, and if Nuss is really locked in, like he has been in the past few games, locked in, fully healed in rhythm, he can be the determination for this game.
Yeah, no, and my biggest thing is just, like you said, making sure you score the points. You can't get into the red zone and kick a field goal and all that, but you talk about that rush defense. LSU's rush offense is ranked in the lowest group of the country as well, in the 100 rankings. So you've got two, kind of sides that have struggled in that scenario where that's how you win the football game. Whoever wins that battle wins the football game. If LSU is able to run the football, I don't see Ole Miss being able to handle the rest of the offense. You have too many weapons on the outside. You have Xavion, you have Barryon, you have Aaron Anderson, you have Tradez in the red zone, who is supposed to play on Saturday. You have all these guys, not to mention you have a Bauer Sharp on a check down. You have weapons.
And you got Barryon Brown too.
That's what I said, yeah. You got Barryon, you got all these guys. You'll be ready to roll. I just don't really see a world that you aren't able to win the game. If you score 28 points, you better win this football game.
Oh, yeah.
Caden Durham, obviously questionable, and it brings up the question, what does LSU do? How do you beat Ole Miss when running the football? Of course, like we just said, the LSU offense ranks in the 100th area when it comes to running the ball, and Ole Miss struggles at defending the run, also in the 100th area. So what do the Tigers need to do to get this run game working? Because like we said, it's the key to winning this football game.
Well, while the run game has really relied on that misdirection, just finessing everything they do, they have to execute successful runs between tackles and establish that commanding presence. So essentially running the ball will naturally set up that in-play action, but even with their limited success, the threat of the run, especially on early downs, can open up that passing game for Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah.
To me, they have to find the rhythm. Whoever has the hot hand, let him go.
Right.
We saw that last week. Jawan Johnson, he found his rhythm, and look what he did. He scored 2 touchdowns. So, especially in the red zone, too, if they want to rely on a guy, they have to know who it's going to be. Caden Durham, his status is questionable. So,
Right.
if it is Jawan Johnson, if it is maybe that Xavion run package that I know you love,
I love it. I'm a fan.
whatever it is,
Bring it back.
whatever it is to get one guy going, and then you can maybe get other guys involved too.
Yeah, no, I'm like he said, I love it. Please bring it back. It's gonna work. It just is. And you just have I just think that offensive line, man. It's gonna come down to that outside, those outside tackles, that inside guard. Just making sure that you're able to get a little bit. All you need is 5 yards a carry. 4 to 5 yards a carry, first down getting 5 yards, then you're able to do something on second down. Maybe you open up, maybe you use that check down that you love, maybe you find open the middle, but you have to be able to consistently get yards, positive yards, running the football, and this, honestly, is your best chance, obviously not against like LA Tech or Southeastern. This is your best chance against like a top opponent that you face this year, whether that's, Florida, Clemson. This defense is worse in the run game than both of those teams. You have an opportunity, and you need to take advantage of it. And, yeah.
And it's worth noting about that offensive line, DJ Chester, who's like their sixth man up there, he's suspended for the first half of his targeting last week. So that right side, Weston Davis, struggled a lot last week. DJ Chester can't go in and play for him if he gets hurt.
No, and so that's it. It worries you a little bit because But BK did say he had 9 guys that he was thinking about playing, so that scares you, and that makes you also kind of think maybe there is a plan and next man up kind of mentality. But yeah, dude, you have to run the ball. You have to. The passing's going to get there. You're going to be able to open up the playbook and get a deep ball. Sage Ryan's back there, man. You're going to be able to get it. You're going to be able to get a deep ball. But it's running the football that is going to win you the game, and that's the most important. So, who's the key player for this offense? Before we do picks,
I think the key player for this offense plays defense for Ole Miss. Sage Ryan. That is a...
They already dogged on him. You can't dog on him again.
But no, I think Juwan Johnson, if he's the guy, especially when they go, under center, he's shined on, like, when Nuss goes under center and they hand it off that way.
Right. Oh, yeah.
The eye for him, whatever it is, like, get him the ball, especially in the red zone.
Yep.
Get him the ball. And if Nick Anderson is open on a deep ball, Nick Anderson, I'm begging you. I'm your biggest defender. Catch it, please.
Yeah, but I want to keep Nussmeier in this. I'm gonna say once again, he's gonna be our star player for this offense.
I agree.
As long as he's able to quickly read the defense, set protection, and get the ball out accurately and to the right person. Because when I'm watching this game, a lot of this time I can catch myself saying, "Where are you throwing the ball to?" He has to be accurate on those passes and make sure when he's throwing, the person is looking and actually open. But a healthy and in-rhythm Nussmeier, which Brian Kelly said he should be healthy this week from his torso injury, that would be essential for the Tigers to compete tomorrow night.
Yep, and mine is simple, and it kind of depends on yours, and that's Barryon Brown. Barryon Brown had a big game against Ole Miss last year when he was with Kentucky. Obviously, he had that catch, that touchdown that won it all for them against Ole Miss. He's going to be your guy. He's he's one of your better receivers. It's him or Aaron Anderson, in my opinion, and I think Aaron Anderson's due. We're going to see a lot of him, but trust me, Barryon Brown is going to make a big play or two, and if he's not available, obviously you have other guys, but man, I expect a good and big game out of Barryon Brown. So let's do some game day picks on these last 3 minutes of the show. USC at Illinois. What do we got? Starting with Will.
Illinois got embarrassed last week. And
do they bounce back?
I think they do.
Okay.
I really do. I think
the Fighting
Brett
Illini
Bielema will have the Fighting Illini back to fighting, and I think they'll get this win on the road and revive their season.
Yeah, it's at home.
I mean, I'm sorry, at home. And
Big
revive
win
their
in
season.
Champaign.
I don't think they're bouncing back. I think that USC is going to win and that they're going to completely annihilate and exploit their defense.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good game. It's going to be a good game. USC's a good team. They have a good, powerful offense, explosive offense. Illinois is going to bounce back. They're going to win this game. I think that they're a really good team. But they, I don't know if I would rank them in the top 25 after last week, but they still have what it takes, and they need a big win. So I like that. The big one, Oregon at Penn State. Who do we got?
I think it's going to be a physical and tough game, but I do have Penn State winning this game.
Okay.
It will be an electric atmosphere. There's no doubt about it, but we have this talk about Penn State every year. When the big moment comes, they crumble. I got Oregon in a close game in Happy Valley.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, Kai. I think Penn State gets it done. I think this is finally the year that they get a big one. I am Drew Allard's biggest hater, but I do think that he gets it done and he gets the win
I saved the
for Penn
graphic.
State. Alabama at Georgia.
Go Dogs, baby. I think Georgia wins by 2 scores at home. Alabama's looked a lot better after week 1, but this Georgia team, Gunnar Stockton to me has been really impressive. I got them big.
Really quickly.
Yeah, I'm a Georgia girl, so go Dogs. And they've been more consistent this year.
Yeah, it's sweep all the way around. Dogs win, dogs win. And now the big one. LSU at Ole Miss. Who wins and what is the score?
I got LSU. I said the magic number for them would be 28. If they can hold Ole Miss to under 24, I think they do that. I think LSU wins 28-21 on the road.
All right.
I think it's going to be 31-28 with the LSU winning.
I like it. Well, this is a problem. LSU, I'm going to have LSU winning 28-14. I think it's going to be a 2-score game. I think 28 points wins you the ball game. I hope we didn't jinx it. LSU is the winner from our pick. So that will do it for us from the KLSU podcast room, John Frischer podcast room, and another episode of the KLSU Tailgate Show. Thank you to Will and Kai for joining me today. Thank you guys for joining us this week. Once again, I'm Michael Poggi, and this has been the KLSU Sports Tailgate Show.